Okay, so hello guys, greetings. Professor Natasha, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Hi.
It's good to meet you again.
Wonderful to see you.
Right, so thank you so much for always coming through whenever we call you. And
Oh, my pleasure. I feel we're such good friends and colleagues that it's a joy. It's a truly for me.
yeah, so a lot of our participants today, some of them they read through the birthday post I made about you, and some of them are so surprised and for me, it's a wonderful opportunity for us to meet again and talk about one of the most interesting aspects of our existence. And one of the things that the first cohort talked about is how you were able to simplify those complex ideas about aging, longevity, and everything. So thank you so much for the teachings the last time. For those who don't know the big masquerade here, we are talking about Professor Natasha Vitamo. She is one of the easygoing person. I have stressed her so much in the in the aging community. I always run back to her whenever I meet her in events. I'm always all over her. So she's very accommodating. So she is famous with her statement that you have to be the CEO of your body, the CEO of your life, and all that. And she will always tell me, don't allow anybody to pressure you. Just take it a step at a time. You'll be fine. So she is a faculty fellow at the Geneva College of Longevity Science. She's not just a PhD holder. She is an inventor. She's done so much in the longevity space, and you cannot talk about any longevity movement that is doing the right thing that she is not supporting positively. So thank you so much, Prof. The floor is yours. You are a co-host. You can also share your screen if you have one or two things to share with us. Thank you so much.
Yes, first let me ask, how many minutes would you like me to speak? Give me a time frame.
Okay, just let's with interaction, let's take an hour.
Okay, good. So I'll do a 25-minute lecture, engaging lecture, I hope, and then we'll have plenty of time. So let's just see how it goes. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, would you like me to start now?
Yes.
Or wait, let's see what time it is. We're exactly 3 minutes after, so I can start if everyone's ready.
Uh,
Okay, good. All right. I will share my screen, which will make it more accommodating for everyone. I just have a short presentation. I didn't want to do anything too lengthy because I think it's the nurturing of ideas and innovation that we really want to focus on. And that is engaging everyone here and being able to answer any questions that you might have. But I'm going to talk about a particular topic that is near and dear to me. It's the culture of longevity. I've written about culture um, for many years, and one of my favorite projects I ever wrote about is titled "The A Third Millennial Culture," and it's the culture of from the 1970s through the late 1990s, and looking at how science and technology helped to change the quote unquote human condition, and how advances in science and technology has really steered towards three particular areas. One, of course, everyone knows about, which is artificial intelligence. And that community is broad and growing by leaps and bounds with large language models, generative AI, and looking at the pros and cons of these emerging vehicles for intelligence and information. There's a lot of caution out there, but there needs, I think, to be far more vision and practicality. The other area that has been growing by leaps and bounds is any form of transportation, looking at satellites within our global system, how today there are so many satellites communicating across our wonderful planet, language, diversity, culture, ideas that is enriching all of us as this larger community, as a global community, with our differences and our uniquenesses and our own cultural backgrounds to share. So that is growing by leaps and bounds, as you've seen the latest space program and certainly transportation. The third area that is absolutely a marvel is longevity, and that's what we're here to talk about today. The industry of longevity it's been around for a very long time, back to antiquity, and this is known, and we look at the lifestyle and the changes and genomics and epigenetics and all sorts of modalities and methodologies to really help us live longer, healthier lives. So the word health span is consequential here. We've moved from anti-aging to life extension to lifespan to now health span. We want everyone to be as healthy as possible for as long as possible. My talk is on the culture of longevity. Again, culture is an area that I've been invested in most of my life, coming from the broader arts, filmmaking, videography, performative arts, to writing, etc., and into the sciences, to where I am today as a futurist theorist, as well as cultural scientist, I suppose we might say. The title of my talk is The Culture of Longevity, Building the Next Trillion-Dollar Market. And you may say, wow, $1 trillion? Well, I think it was just 5 years ago I talked about the billion-dollar market, but now we're in the trillion. And this certainly is a projection of the trends in the marketplace, where advancements are going. And also, it's based on the broadening, the growing marketplace of longevity, where at one time it was just the scientific research, the biomedical interventions, and then it became the advocacy and strong movement of longevity, to where it now is a marketplace for pitching ideas, investors to come together. And it's not only that. Longevity has switched from being just about living longer years in health, good health, but also about looking at the future, which is my favorite area, looking at biomechanics, looking at bionics, looking at prosthetic parts, looking at robotics, looking at AI, and how these emerging fields are growing within the longevity sector while they're still maintaining their own relevance and importance in their specific fields. They're coming into longevity, and I've been waiting for this to happen for probably 20 or 30 years. And I'm so happy that now longevity includes AI, includes robotics, includes prosthetics, and includes hopefully new areas of cryobiology and vitrification. So what I'm going to do right now with that introduction is share my screen. So let me just start this, please, and slideshow. Let's see. Okay. I think you're going to have to give me, OC, hold on just a second. Whoops, let me go back here. OC, can you give me permission to share my screen, or can I do it automatically?
I've done it.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Again, this is a short, it's only 10 slides. Well, actually 8, but I'll give it some depth. Okay. I think you just make me a co-host. I think that'll do it. Oh, I can do it down here. Okay, share. Okay. Wow, look at all the people here. I am just blown away. Hi, everyone. If you just joined or I haven't said hello yet, this is so impressive. This is one of I think, the best programs on longevity. So this is great. Okay. Okay. I'm going to close out at that. Now I'm going to share my screen. Okay. Okay, I'm going to from beginning. Okay, good. You can see it now. Okay, there. Everyone see it? Okay, good. I think there's so many people waiting to sign in, and it's popping up there. So I'm just going to hit admit. Okay. Okay, so greetings, Afrolongevity movement, education program, cohort 2. My name is Natasha Vita-Moore, as Osi has already introduced me, and my talk is on this lovely infrastructure of longevity, which I call the culture of longevity seeding the market. So it's almost like it's a culture almost in a petri dish, although we don't have strong borders. But it's really, I think, important to take a look at what we are as this culture that's growing. The longevity is often understood through biomedical advances aimed at extending health span, yet the emergence of longevity economy depends not only on science, but also on the culture, the institutional projects, and the infrastructural system that allow longevity to innovate and grow at scale within its own culture. So, in short, this lecture explores, not quite under a microscope, but more of a broad exploration of longevity as a living, evolving system shaped by culture, the marketplace, and new forms of human infrastructure. In examining the cultural dynamics of longevity that support the healthy lifespan and longevity science and the economic opportunities they create, this lecture or this course I'm presenting right now offers a framework for understanding how longevity may become one of the next trillion-dollar markets. And we all want to see it go that way. In this course, the learning objectives are clear. I think that the takeaway, and I'd like everyone to have this when they leave this course today, is to be able to explain the concept of longevity and its role in shaping attitudes towards health span, aging, and long life, to identify the emerging longevity marketplace and understand why longevity is becoming a trillion-dollar economic opportunity, to describe the new human infrastructure required to support extended human life, including biological maintenance, cognitive capability, and what I call redesigning of the socioeconomic timeframe as a long view. And lastly, to understand the culture of longevity as a generative medium in which longevity grows as a living, evolving system. So in one place, it's a living, evolving system in the marketplace and how that's happening, but to understand the infrastructure and why this is happening. I think the important part of this is that to setting the frame here, the key question becomes, what makes longevity possible beyond science? Again, longevity is often packaged as a scientific field, and we all want to know the science of it, but I think we need to really focus on the culture of it. So even though longevity is presented as a scientific medical achievement, and today a lifestyle, especially in the blue zones, its realization depends so much on the laboratory discoveries, clinical interventions, personal lifestyle practicing, but it also takes its roots at scale. And while science seeks to extend health span or healthy longevity, the success of that effort, I'll say that again, the core success of that effort requires a broader environment. And this environment takes its roots at scale, as I said, within the culture, which means public attitudes towards aging, which we all know needs to change, investment in preventative health, which we know is paramount to longevity, networks of researchers and advocates, and institutions willing to rethink the traditional life course. And that's the big one. How do we get institutions to rethink are living longer, healthier lives, and that we want to live longer, healthier lives, and have it aligned with the current traditions and cultures that we currently coexist within. So it takes a willingness to say, okay, we're in the 21st century, but we're still living like we're in the 20th century or 19th century, based on the timeframes of education, of, as a child, you go to school, you learn, then you become an adult, you get a career, and you hopefully have a family, and then you find success in your family, and you raise your children, or if not, that's fine too. And then you go on into retirement, and then you go into old age. That's how it's been. Child, adolescent, get education, adult, find your partner, your partners, and you find your career, your careers, then you work at it, you find some career establishment, then you have old age or retirement, and then you die. That is all done within usually a 70-year time frame. In some countries, it differs. Some countries, it may be a little less, other countries more. Some countries have a maximum lifespan efficiency at maybe 84 years, around there. But let's just say 75 years to give some leeway. That's a very short time when we're looking at intervening and living longer and healthier. So longevity begins as a cultural idea before, and I really mean this, before it becomes a field, an industry. And that cultural idea, I think, is so important here. Has to be a desire that's the driving force of longevity, and then becomes the science and the fields and the inquiry, and then the breakthroughs and all the different ways that this can come about. Shaping that, while all this is happening, shaping that is the movement, the advocacy. And that movement really represents a key part, the fuel, the ATP, the mitochondria of this movement. But it's not all. We need to really think about how we're going to reshape these cultures that are embedded in 20th century or 19th century thinking. That needs to be motivated and changed. To understand culture as a generative medium, I think, is the important takeaway and the fourth learning objective here. So let's say, what makes longevity possible beyond science? You may hear people say, well, is it scientifically accurate? Well, who's doing the research? And then we also want it to be ethical and have some strong guidelines. So there becomes a little, not a schism, but a separation between hard science and innovation science. We need to base health span on hard science, what we know to be accurate, what we know is saving lives, from vaccinations to gene therapies, to stem cells, to all sorts of new therapies on the horizon. Yet within those new therapies, many of them have not been tested. Some have been approved by the government or scientific bureaus in some countries, but not others. So we really need to become great researchers in identifying what the breakthroughs are, what the therapies are, and are they viable? Just this past week, I went to a lecture on stem cells. And I sat there listening to this. It lasted for a couple of hours. My takeaway was they're selling a product of stem cells. On one hand, they're saying it'll cure your arthritis, and then they're saying on the other side of their mouth, and it also cures Alzheimer's. Well, that is not an absolute, and that is not really accurate. So we need to check the claims that are being made about these new therapies. So the longevity, the core idea is longevity is shaped by the culture and the industry it's in. We take a look at that industry, we'll see how it's shaping culture. Let me go back there, sorry. So I think one of the important takeaways here is that we all know about mimetic engineering and how ideas spread. They spread through word of mouth, through social media platforms. They spread through people that we know, who we respect and we admire, and we ask them questions and we rely on their sharing knowledge with us. It's also very important, no matter how much we respect someone or value their work, is to ask questions. Could you give me the reference or the citation? Can you tell me how that was proven? Can you tell me how many cases back that scientific evidence up? Can you explain where I can go for further research? Can you tell me any downsides of it? What are some of the poor outcomes or the bad or unexpected outcomes that were more damaging than they were helpful for one's longevity? And this is really important to ask. As a side note here, I asked that at the lecture I was at on stem cells this past week. And the person giving the lecture said, oh, there are no bad sides. Well, that's inaccurate. Anyone can Google and look, what are some ill effects or downfalls or bad sides of stem cells? And there's a myriad, many, many downsides if they're not injected correctly, if they're not in the petri dish bred correctly, if they're how they're stored isn't accurate, if they're put in the wrong part of the body, all just so many different aspects there. But it's really important to think about and to learn about. Here it takes us to longevity has become a major economic sector. And I brought this up next because I think it's really important to consider the advances in longevity, all the new therapies, this growing industry with so many conferences, and conferences now that had one been based largely just on scientific research or advocacy are now inviting innovation, people in this field, people in their labs doing research, and those who have an idea for research. Maybe the research hasn't been done yet, but they've got a great idea on how to build out a new innovation that could be so helpful. So it's really important here to take a look at where the people that are pitching a new idea, kind of like Shark Tank, and what their background is, how much knowledge they have, how much experience they have, and what are the investors saying? What questions are being asked? So here it all boils down again to asking questions. Never take anything at face value, whether it's in the scientific field, in the advocacy, in the growing culture, or in the economic sector of it. We need to continue doing that. So while investors are increasingly recognizing the opportunity, much like a gold rush towards capital and innovations in biotechnology, preventative health, prosthetics, looking at cryobiology, looking at robotics, looking at AI, that are all focused on longevity. The important thing here is remember that the hard science is still where the efficacy lies, and then to grow into the advocacy. And now the pitches are taking great emphasis. I think here, one key takeaway is that culture creates the conditions in which longevity science can emerge and thrive. I think that once we look at that very carefully, it's good to see that all of us here, the many of you in this session right now, you're part of this culture. And here we are listening to speakers who are academics or not, within this core structure for Afrolongevity, movement, educational, learning, that the culture itself is so fascinating that really focusing on who we are, what each of our backgrounds are, and how we can all contribute to it makes that culture even more fertile and more generative. The can we say in good sense that longevity is really a major economic sector? I think that we can say, yes, now it is, where it could have been speculative 10, 20 years ago, maybe not so much 5 years ago, but still a bit speculative. I think now investors are seeing it as a reliable area to invest in. And again, that's largely because of looking at just firsthand empirical awareness, the number of investors who are now going to conferences on longevity. And also you can, go to your government websites and look at the marketplace and see what the stock market's doing and the blue chip investing, and see where corporations, some of the very well-known blue chip corporations are heading. Are they investing in longevity, for example? What about some of the biggest MGM or Microsoft or Apple? Not so that, but it's big in that regard. But even looking at major companies that have been around for a long time, even looking at some of the transportation systems. I said it was a major area, and it is. Take a look, for an example, at our auto manufacturers. Our automobiles are vehicles that most of us have or drive every day, or are in every day, or at least a few times a week. They have seatbelts. That is a longevity preventative measure. They have AI, narrow AI systems to alert us when a car is too close, or we're backing up too close to another vehicle or a person. There are warning systems. Even the headlights on a car are a preventative measure. So the very vehicles that we're driving or passengers in are also involved in the longevity sector, largely because they're protecting us. So preventative care, or preventative measures are really so beneficial Who would have put those two together? Well, they are together, and that gives more evidence that longevity has become a major economic sector. Every transportation system and even communication systems that we're using are interfacing with modalities to protect human life. Very important here. So now let's take us to the new human infrastructure. One of my favorite areas. Oh, let's see. There we go. How do I see this? And you're going, well, what do you mean by new human infrastructure? Our infrastructure, our biological mechanism isn't new. It's ancient, goes back to the first earliest hominids and earliest life forms. What I'm saying is taken in the field of culture or social interactions, the new human infrastructure is based on what I think are three very important pillars. I'll call these pillar utilities because they're so important for us to work with them, to understand them, and to realize what they are. These three utilities I call pillars, not silos, but they're holding up the whole infrastructure. Are first, body maintenance. That means knowing your biology, knowing as much as possible about your own blood work, your genetics, your epigenetics, your bone structure, muscle structure, your sleep patterns, your diet, your exercise. All these routines make your bodily infrastructure part of a very important utility. You can change this at any time. If you're not healthy today, you can become healthy if you see that as a utility. By utility, I mean something that has use, something that is almost applicable for a tool. You can manage your own body maintenance by living a healthy life and by seeing your doctor, dealing with all the tweaks and daily potentialities for hurt or damage or whatnot. And we see this at different ages in our life. What was maybe very important for this biological maintenance in your teens or 20s changes in your 40s and 50s at mid-age, or menopause or andropause later in your 50s, etc., to older age to old age. And so each stage of this requires a different awareness or different utility use and measure for our bodily biological maintenance. The second utility, I think this is really important, and it goes hand in hand with biological maintenance, is cognitive capacity. And our ability to use our minds and our brains effectively and to nurture our minds and brains is so important, because without our brains, we'd just be a body without anything else. So looking at our brains as a really strong organ that needs itself to be nurtured separately from the bodily and biological maintenance, because it is an effective machine in and of itself that has all sorts of neurological communications and chemistries that are constantly interacting. Well, you may not be able to know a lot about it, and most people don't. That's okay. What you need to know is yourself, how you think, what your thinking patterns are, how you can really work with your own brain, your own mind, and keep it as sharp and lovely and positive as possible over your health span. The third utility I think is really important because it restructures longevity. And I already mentioned this, but I'm going to reiterate this because I see it as a utility. It's the economic time horizon. That is, looking at the length of time we're alive has changed from the 19th century or the 20th century or centuries before, certainly. But how we're looking at it today in the 21st century within this longevity ecology and looking at the new human infrastructure is that we cannot base everything that we're doing in our lives, this whole system that we have, on old world modalities or old world cultural habits. We need to create new habits and see it as an expansive time horizon. It may not be just to 75, it could be to 95, it could be to 105. So we need to prepare for that and be as effective and smart about preparing for that as possible, and make sure that the people we work with and the institutions we work with are very aware of that as well. Longevity as a living system. And I love this because it kind of ties everything in here. And this is the fourth topic here. Let me pull this next slide up. There. Okay, perfect. Culture as a growing medium. I love this because it takes an analogy between a petri dish. Any of you who are scientists here, and like me, have worked with organisms or cells within a petri dish. It's really an incredible thing to see, to look under a microscope and to see cells growing and evolving and communicating with each other or with other organisms within or animals within the petri dish. I'm going to admit this person up here. Thank you there. But if we look at our culture, our movement as a system that is growing and evolving itself, apart from all these other aspects, it becomes something that we want to nurture and see grow in a healthy environment. So like a petri dish, if you've worked with cells or organisms or animals within the petri dish, microscopic animals, you know that they have to be in a safe environment. You know that the agar, whatever substance that is in the petri dish, such as agar, needs to be as healthy as possible, and they need to have feeding patterns. When do you put the nutrients in the petri dish for these cells to be healthy as possible? What is the lighting? What is the sound? What is this environment? And when you put a petri dish in the freezer, you also want that environment to be as safe as possible. Bottom line is, you just don't put something in a petri dish and forget it. You know that it has to be a safe environment for whatever you're working on to thrive or not. That's determined. We want our longevity culture to thrive. And so being a little bit aware of what we're communicating with, what we're connecting with, what is the environment, the ecology is really important to us. So if we look at it this way, then longevity itself becomes a living system. And let's see, what do I have here? Within this ecosystem, cultural feedback loops between scientific progress, public imagination, and economic opportunity continually reinforce the field's growing, enabling longevity to evolve as both a scientific pursuit and a social movement. And I'm going to reiterate that. The feedback loops, most of you know what a feedback loop is. It's a futurist term for like cybernetics, information and reaction, or you give something, you get something back. It's not necessarily reciprocity, but it's an exchange of information or energies or data. So between the scientific progress, public imagination, how they're seeing the movement of longevity or what the scientific field is, and the economic opportunity, that's good nurturing information, economic stuff, continue reinforces the field's growth. That we want that all to be as healthy as possible. So the last cohort, I'm just going to wrap this up here. And I want to say that I think that in the key insight here is, more than anything, that longevity succeeds when three forces are in sync and support each other. These three forces are the culture, the growing, evolving culture of longevity, the infrastructure of our human needs and shared values and language, and the marketplace, so that they align in ways that bring about a type of camaraderie and beneficial aspect. Each one is feeding the other and growing from it in ways that bring about the underlining aim towards health span. So in sum, this culture or infrastructure and marketplace create the conditions for longevity economy to emerge and grow. And as a final thought on this, longevity is not just about extending life, it's about the culture in which life is being extended. And we need to shine a very bright light on that, because we want our culture to be as healthy and positive to help us make this a movement and a marketplace investment that will grow and stick. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Prof.
You're very welcome.
As usual, like excellent. I think I was just writing down your last statement, you know. It's not just all about extending life, but the culture it is being extended, the culture that is being applied in the extension of the life.
Yes.
So this is why I always tell um, my people here in Africa that we have a lot to do with our biodiversity and bioavailability. So culture is inseparable from biodiversity, and we need to find meaning because we are genetically diverse and we are closer to our biodiversity. We need to um, be closer to nature and eat naturally than being so pushing ourselves so much with the idea of biohacking when we don't have the resources, but we need to start from somewhere and then enter the mainstream longevity market. Thank you so much, Professor Natasha, and I really appreciate it. So it's time for questions and interaction. So if you have questions, please raise up your hand. Don't be shy. Don't say my question might not make sense. She knows how to make sense of every question. So it's something she loves doing. Thank you. Question, please. Just raise your hand and take it up. Um,
One thing
we have
oh, go ahead. Sorry.
no, sorry. Go ahead, bro.
I think one thing that I think your group can help reinforce is the desire to see culture being realized and expanded upon rather than just this hard focus on selling longevity. I think longevity got so involved in entrepreneurs, which is great. No criticism on that at all. But it almost, for the past 5 years, it's almost become entrepreneurs, who owns what business, and everyone had a business. And that's great. But I didn't get a sense of a real culture. On the other hand, has been a tremendous emphasis on lifestyle, your exercise, what you eat, your community, all of that. And that's everyone was talking about, and I did it too. I have a video with almost 250,000 viewers on my lifestyle, my exercise routine and whatnot. So I think that's all great, but I think it does take us away from the longevity itself, rather than being each individual emphasizing who they are, their company or their exercise routine. I think we need to see it as a culture. See it all interconnected. No one is any better than the other one. Someone does something, maybe has more skills at something than someone else, and we can all learn from each other. But I think we need to see, rather than focusing on anyone being the most famous longevity scientist or advocate or exercise or whatever, see it, what is the culture itself? What do we look like to the outside world? And I think that's changed. I don't know for you all, and let me ask anyone here. In the past, those of us interested in longevity were considered outliers, that we were not the norm. We were like, oh, they're selfish. They just want to live a long time, or they're just so into themselves. Is that something that you all notice, where people say you're selfish if you want to live longer, or you're vain if you are focusing too much on how your body or exercise or whatnot? I'm looking to see if there's any comments here in the.
Yeah, I think Brenda wanted to say something.
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
Is it right? Brenda?
Hello.
Hello, Brenda.
Hi, Dr. Vita Moore. Thank you so much for being here tonight. It's so lovely to see you once again. And
yeah, we just saw each other recently in Dubai. Yes.
Yes, lucky enough, we dodged the whole situation.
Yes, I know. Can you believe it? Oh my goodness. Oh, God.
But
Dodge it by 1 month.
Yes, I know. And I'm glad that that happened, because now we are able to share this with the community as well. And we are very excited to have you here. And as usual, bringing the best into our community and contributing to what we're doing at Afrolongevity. I like what you've just said now about culture, because there is something that I was actually speaking to one professor that I met earlier on, actually from Yale University. And she was talking about how longevity is really starting to progress in the US, and how they are seeing, the African countries getting interested in this. And I spoke about the how it is important for us to keep that element of the Afro in the longevity.
Yes.
Because it talks to the culture, it talks to who we are. And, I am glad, I just wanted to say that I'm glad that you are emphasizing on the fact that who we are as a people becomes very important in longevity, because it brings into play, what we eat, who we are, how our genetics are made up, and all of those things are very, very important. We shouldn't rush to adopting what other people are doing. We should start by looking at what we already have, because those are low-hanging fruits.
Yes, so, I love that. I love that, because we don't want it to become all one thing, all the same everywhere, everyone's doing. I think the beauty of having this as a movement that is based on different cultures, as we're creating almost like a meta culture. So this meta culture of longevity, Brenda, we lost your face. This meta culture of longevity has all these different cells, and those cells are the different areas where people are doing their own practice and building it out. So I love that. I love that idea. Yeah.
No, thank you so much.
Thank you. So is my hair still pink?
Yeah, thank you so much. Dr. Nyok, do you have any comments? I think he's here.
I do.
Yes, please go ahead.
Hi.
Okay, so I'm sorry, I will not be using a video.
Professor Natasha, Dr. Nyok is a sound philosopher from the University of Calabar, Nigeria. So he's very interested in what we are doing.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Natasha. I listened to your class from the beginning to the end. It was quite instructive, I must say. Secondly, I would want to say, I don't know, I want to make a comment around one of the last statements you made. When you talked about Afro-longevity, both as a culture, Afro-longevity, the economic dimension, you stressed the aspects where we shouldn't say this is more important than this, because everything is interconnected. But I think that as Homo sapiens, we are cultural beings, and what's more important, I think, in that particular context, should be the culture. There should be emphasis on the cultural aspects, because even though we would say that economy would drive the entire system, but we should make emphasis on the knowledge base of longevity and Afro-longevity, as it were, so that the tendency, the potential for it to be abused going forward would be reduced. If we say this is not important, everything plays a very important role, I'm afraid that it gives room for potential abuse. I don't know. That's just
okay. So let me ask you, I don't think that we should ever say anything is more important than anything else. I think everything has its own value. But as far as longevity itself, what I was saying is that longevity is driven by the culture, the advocacy, the desire. And I think, and I still do, I think it's the driving force of longevity. There has to be I said the ATP or mitochondria, it has to be the desire to live healthy, long lives that drives innovation, that drives the economy. So is that something you disagree with?
I agree with that. In my thinking, if you say that it's that drive, that culture, for me, I think that's more important. At least there should be this kind of substance and accidents. I don't know. I'm talking about philosophy, the metaphysics about where it is cultural, where there is drive, where there is advocacy. I think that's more important. Then from there, every other component can fit in. The economy can fit in, the infrastructure, the new human infrastructure, as you use the terminology, can fit in. But I think there should be something that is more important. That's anyway. But and to the extent to which it's cultural, for me, it's important or more important. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, bro. Ifeoma Deborah, you can ask your question after that, Neti.
I was just looking at the chat. Go ahead.
Yes,
sorry?
go ahead, Ifeoma.
Okay. Mine is not really a question, but I want to say that over the years, or okay, let me say recently, I've watched a lot of YouTube videos and read a lot of articles on health promotion. And I come to realize that there are less work or awareness on African food and resources that are indigenous to the African people. So sometimes when I watch some of those videos or read those articles, you hear some names of food or fruits or herbs that you've never seen, or they might be hard to see around you. And there are a lot of explanation and testimonies about how those herbs or fruit have helped people fight one ailment or the other. Then it makes me wonder, all the African plants or herbs that we have, there's little research work to back them up or to explain how they can be used for health. So I don't know if this our program, if we have any research that could help people in the future to enlighten people or carry out more research on African foods, African herbs, plants that are indigenous to us, that people in Africa can easily access and use it to improve their health. That's just, I don't know if it's a question, but that's just what I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was beautiful.
Can
Thank
I
you.
comment? Prof, can I comment? Hello, can I say something about that? Okay, so I think we have, and a lot of persons are doing interestingly well with regards to looking at the active ingredients of our plants. And our team here, these are one of the things that we're going to deal with, especially where we talk about evolution and genetic nutrition. So there we treat some of all these things, and there are a lot of people doing interesting work with regards to this. And you are also welcome to be part of those people that are doing some of all those things. And promotion is also very important, but the problem is that most Africans are suffering from low self-esteem. They are not proud of what their cultural foods, lifestyles, and all that. And it's dependent on imperialism, because most people called it cruel and all that, crude and all that. So, but with time, people are coming back to understanding how our lifestyle model and our dietary plan is very important. And that's why Professor Natasha emphasized on culture as a great agent in improving the quality of our life. Because if you check, Africans, they've lived so long, and they've lived so many years in this planet. And when we mention things like bioavailability, it means those things within you. When we talk about biodiversity, it means that culture and other things that you eat and all that. So there are values in them. As we proceed, we continue to understand and know better how to make use of it. So that's it. Neti, okay. Ifeoma, did we answer your question before we move to Neti?
Yes, we do. Thank you very much.
Neti, you can ask a question.
Good evening. I hope everyone is well. Thank you so much, Natasha, for the wise presentation, informative presentation, and for the platform. I just want to ask one question because I am working with young kids, or say youth. So I want to know what can maybe education or the STEM programs do or play, what kind of a role can education or STEM program play in terms of preparing youth for the longevity economy, looking at sustainability for we know our countries, we are we are not informed in this kind of things. So what is it that we can do from here to make sure that the youth can close that gap that have been there? Thank you so much.
Oh, great question. I love this because, you know, too bad it's not STEML, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, longevity, but it's not. So in this instance, because STEM is so important, more STEM than STEAM. The arts was added into STEM by some people, but most people really focus on STEM in education, especially for younger people, with an emphasis on STEM, science, engineering, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And they don't leave in culture and the arts and health, and it's so vital. So I guess the way around it, and I think this ties into something I said about you have a culture or a system, let's just call it a system, an operating system, and it doesn't really focus specifically and ardently on longevity itself, yet it needs to, for its own survival, have longevity as part of its attributes, like an automobile has seat belts and lights and narrow AI to warn us if we're going to hit a car, etc. All of our communications and transportation systems do have an element of safety for the human, and that's left out of STEM. So what one idea I have is that since STEM is based on science, I think it would be great for students to, and they already do this, they're looking at biology and plant life and looking at biosphere and all this stuff, to add to that STEM. Why are we even doing STEM? It's to be educated people. Why? I mean, I think here the questions are so important that I think in the curriculum for students, I'm not teaching any right now in that structure, but if I were, I would just say to the academic institutions and the teachers, what are you teaching in these STEM programs that talk about health? And I think if you don't say exercise or diet or, you know, all that stuff, because then it means, you know, people think, oh, they're saying we're fat or we're unhealthy or whatever, but just health, because health can be the term that means not physical health, but mental health, emotional health, all this stuff. But health is so important. So I think that since we can't make it STEAM L, we can make it STEAM regarding health. And children are so important in this. How to get children to pay attention. I think that if anyone here is an innovator and a creator, you can certainly create games. Kids love games, different apps. An app for that is totally focused on students in certain age groups in their academic work, that makes it fun and makes it intriguing, makes it exciting. But I think out of all of it, the science is already dealing with life forms. It just needs to deal with human life forms in health. The technology is usually looking at robotics or looking at certain tech systems. But what are the technology there that could really turn into health for students deals with what type of wearable would you build that in the technology aspect of STEM that could help someone warn them when they're not feeling well, or your grandparents when they're not feeling well, or protect someone. With the engineering aspect, it's all about engineering products and projects And of course, mathematics is a very difficult one. I'm not into math at all, so I can't even face that one. But most of the science in the world of looking at where the future is going, mathematics has a very strong, important part. But I think too much is almost put on mathematics rather than on health and culture. I hope I answered a little bit effectively. I don't know if I did or not, but it's a tough one because STEM is very, it's very structured in what it is. There has to be a way to get around it or to really get in touch with students outside of that rigorous protocol for academics.
Okay, thank you so much, Prof. Natasha. I really I wanted to just emphasize that this is why we are speaking with the curriculum advisors to say at least add an A in STEM to be a STEAM so that the kids can also be creative, innovative, and also add an art. You know, when you add art, kids can easily be become naturally creative and stuff like that. And then adding on the robotics and gaming, it will actually keep the learners to not forget about what they've learned, especially if we can thematize it up around health, longevity. Yes. I think now you've answered me. Thank you so much.
Okay. Yeah, it's a tough one. It is a tough one. It really is. Yeah, I tried to.
Okay, you muted yourself.
At the university where I was teaching, I tried to bring in longevity into my courses, and it was really hard. It's not an easy thing to do when universities have the curriculum, and it's really it's tough. It's tough. So gosh, if you want to email me outside of this session, I'll be more than happy to brainstorm with you, but it's a tough one. I think gamification of longevity and making it a fun thing. It's almost like, some kind of salvo, like who in your family's life can you protect? And kids really love to be like heroes, like Superman or, Superwoman or, these Marvel or, they love that. Be heroes. How to be a hero of your family's longevity. Whose life can you protect? And come up with an idea of maybe your grandmother, your sister, your brother, someone has an illness or an injury. What could you create that would help them? And I think if you turn it into something like that, where it's a creative, exciting project for students to do, then they get interested. And then it becomes more about mimetic engineering, how students can all start thinking about, I'm a hero. I help prevent, I got in there and did something important. Children love to help their family members. They love it.
Okay, thank you so much. We are getting there. Interesting conversation. Pule, you can ask your question.
Okay.
Then after that, Rosemary. Okay, go ahead.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Badu. I'm phoning from South Africa. I really love what I've heard. 2014, I was dying with a cardiac failure. And at that time, I thought that was the only thing that I knew, is that I am in heart failure. Then I got information that I can eat myself out of death and live again. But the extent of longevity movement that I've heard blows my mind, that one can really radically change their outlook towards life, your culture, the economy. When you walk into a shopping store, mall, you see, the decisions that you make in terms of your shopping experience. The movement of seed bank and protecting non-GMO seeds, eating lively food. And it is really blowing my mind, in a sense that it shifts the whole society in which we are. It feels like I can go into the street and say, guys, there is life in eating right. I learned when I was struggling with my health that diet, intermittent fasting gives you back your life. But the reinforcement that I got today really champions what I thought was the 5% of knowledge that I had. And it really excites to know that there's power in the science that can change our outlook towards life. We can start living and not be puppets of the market in a non-discerning way where you just kind of are a victim of circumstances. You can take control of your life, your death, your health, your longevity. You can extend your lifespan beyond what you can ever think about. So I really appreciate the moment that I'm here today, and I'm blown apart. I'm really happy, and yeah, that's all I can say. Just gratitude and opening up my eyes to the real world around this movement, and how our fermented foods, our African foods, our cultural food are healing spices and herbs that can extend our lives. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, Rosemary. After Rosemary, dear Chisom. Rosemary, are you there?
Yeah, hello. Good
Hi.
evening, everyone. Thank you so much for this session. I am particularly interested in how healthcare practice and lifestyle intersect to promote longevity in African communities. I have a few questions concerning that. Now, from a clinical perspective, how can nurses and primary healthcare workers effectively integrate longevity principles into community health programs, especially in areas with limited resources? So this is my question. I would like to know how we can integrate this principle effectively to promote health, especially at grassroots level. Thank you.
Yeah, grassroots level. I mean, isn't that, it's such a parallel at a grassroots level, meaning grassroots is really about the terra, the earth, to just be at peace with where you are, your community, your environment. And I think that that's the beauty of the concept of grassroots, that it's a communication where people are just talking and communicating. So that's important. So everyone you see, everyone can communicate, make health and longevity part of your everyday dialogue, your communication. Instead of saying, what do you do to people, when you meet them, what is your job? What's your longevity? Anything new that you're doing different with your longevity? I mean, it would be really interesting if we could greet each other differently and communicate in different ways, rather than, oh, I live in so and so. My body is my world. What is it? So if I'm not making this very clear, and I forgive me because it's just off the top of my head, but it seems that the way we greet each other and communicate and share information, if we include a positive, healthy comment in there, it might be so beneficial on a grassroots level and spread like wildfire. And usually when you say to someone, how are you? What's going on with you? People love to complain. The first thing they will do is, oh, my left leg hurts, or my right shoulder hurts, or I've got a headache, or I just fell down. People often default, and this is kind of human nature to a degree, but it's also in culture. People default to talking about their problems, their losses, their fears. What if we could just shift that language, that communication, to talking about health, positive things they're looking forward to? And I think that would be the biggest grassroots things we could do to nurture our culture of longevity. So I love that comment. Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Okay.
much. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
It was really
Rosemary,
very insightful. Yes, sir.
I think that is why we are here also to ensure that we integrate this thing at the grassroots level.
Yes.
We all have our existential locus. I can only do the little I can. Prof can always do the little she can from where she is sitting. So the idea of this transfer of knowledge is for us to have a footprint where people can translate this information in a way that those around them can understand it better. So that is how we can tell all this down. Someone made an interesting comment saying that we should have a culture of, she thinks we should have a culture of longevity so that they can teach their children on how to live a better and a healthier life. Perfect. Excellent. So thank you so much for that
Love
comment.
it. Love it. Thank you. Oh,
Thank you.
So Chisom, can you ask your question if you're there? After Chisom Onyeka.
Thank you so much. Listening to Professor Natasha again is a delight. Um, Somehow she already answered some of the questions that I wanted to ask. But just from the last comments you made, longevity it's just, I think it's more of a personal thing. But it's easier to change my life or about my health, to improve my health. It's easier than improving the health of another person. So if we focus more on the individual level, myself, how can I improve my health? Maybe somebody could see you and want to be like you. So it's easier. Okay, this is what I do. This is my philosophy. This is why I'm like this. It will be easier. And then we go back to our parents of old. I was lucky enough to live with my grandparents. There's a way they lived their life. And because they were our parents, so we lived after them. Whatever they did, we did. So in their time, there were not much of what we have today. So they ate more of organic food and we joined them to eat that. So today they are no longer there. And there is this shift. So even in universities today, there are some universities that do not allow students to even cook. So when we talk about longevity, they still resort back to eating some of the junk foods because they have no option. So
whoa.
then I go back to what Professor Natasha said again, is about culture. Culture is the way of life of the people. How are things done where people are? What are the policies? But these are some, this in big part will also affect what we do. So it's not just about the person alone. It's also about policies. Because if you're in a school where they don't allow you to cook, you don't have any option than resorting to whatever that is available. So I think it's more of an individual thing. We should come down to our individual levels and then do that, and also see how we can translate it to our children that will come after us. So they will just grow up seeing that kind of life and they begin to become longevists. So I think for me, that's how we can bring it to the grassroots level. Thank you so much, Professor Natasha. Listening to you again is very beautiful. Thank you so much.
I love that. And I love that you talked about, well, if you can't make your own food and you have to buy fast food if you're a student, that's kind of not good. And so then what is the university offering? Is there no healthy place to get them? Okay, someone here, some innovator here, some entrepreneur here, here's a call for you. Create a healthy longevity health food that's easy to make. And you can get the, all the legal qualifications and licensing to produce. And that's what the students need. I'm sure that there's some African food that is so healthy, so easy to make and inexpensive, and that would be great for students to have access to. I know I like to eat for my breakfast the same thing every day. I eat cottage cheese with papaya for the enzymes and cottage cheese for the protein. And that is my staple. That's my everyday breakfast. Then I add to it more protein or other vegetables, and I always have salad. But that I would eat every day. And so there has to be a staple that most students would love to eat that is easy enough to make, easy enough to produce. And yeah. So I love that comment. Thank you so much.
That was like, it's not a joke. That comment. That comment in Nigerian universities, you are not allowed, in most Nigerian universities, you are not allowed to cook in the hostel. Like, it's problematic. So it's something that we need to, at least from the Afrolongevity, write a publication on. We're going to write something and then publish it on the national dailies in Nigeria. So it's something that we need to react to strongly. So Onyeka, please go ahead.
Hello, yeah, thank you everyone. Thank you, Professor Natasha. I'm very delighted to be here today. I actually grew up in Nigeria, but living in UK right now. So, my question is this, because seeing what is going on around the Afro longevity and cultural part of it, as you just said, and growing up in Nigeria, seeing the kind of things we do, the kind of food we eat and everything, and now living in UK and seeing what the little children eat, you know, sometimes you go out, see them eat chips in the morning, afternoon, evening. You probably know that this is not a healthy living actually, but you can't change it because of the situation and the environment, which is part of the culture we're talking about. Probably they all know about ultra processed food. You know, every day they're in the shop buying canned food, buying all those stuff. So my question is this, because when I've thought about this so many times, you see, how can we help these children? I know Rosemary asked about how can we get this thing to the grassroots? How can we teach this to the children? But now my question goes to this. I think one of the ways we can try to get this thing done is by, you know, getting it to the making it become a more like a policy towards like orthodox medicine, or maybe having to teach this um type of lifestyle in schools and all that. So my question is, does Afro or does longevity program, do they have like an affiliation or affiliation to maybe School of Medicine or maybe Orthodox medicine? I think because when you are sick, you have to go to your doctor, and when you go to the doctor or your GP, is probably going to prescribe some medicine for you. So if our doctors knows about this, I think it will go a long way to helping us instead of falling sick. Because I believe, as a physiotherapist, I believe in preventative measures other than treatment. So, is there any affliction with longevity program to School of Medicine at the moment? That's my question.
Okay. In Nigeria, we have affiliation with College of Medicine, University of Lagos. And in the last section, for the first cohort, because the educational program, besides that, before I continue, and Professor Natasha was the one that was asking us to focus more on education. She was very strong with that. She will always tell me, oh, so you guys need to focus on education. Education is very important. Focus on education.
You have here, it's I'm sure.
Okay, so sorry about that. So we started making that relationship with institutions, and the first cohort we had medical doctors participating in the first cohort. So they are always appreciating what we are doing. They appreciate the upstream biology that we are bringing in. They appreciate the idea that we are calling people back to their biodiversity. They appreciate that, but this is a step at a time. I'll give you a practical example. Professor Natasha wrote the Transhumanist Handbook as far back she's been. So most of the things that she was preaching those days for, let's say, 40 years ago, most people thought that she wasn't normal, but now people are coming in terms with that. So it's a gradual step. That's why sometimes you see me being a little bit aggressive. So she's done all those things. So now you see me, I'm trying to. They did it when there was nothing like Facebook, there was nothing like TikTok, there was no social network. So they have to move from one campus to the other, organizing conferences. So I think most of the jobs, we cannot be everywhere. That's why we are here. And the culture is a way of integrating the longevity lifestyle into our everyday lifestyle. So that is why we're here. So, and if each and every one of us can do that at home, I think we are making progress.
Yeah, and something about the medical doctors, it's so unfortunate that that in many countries, the medical doctor field does not include nutrition, lifestyle, or health. It's usually very focused on dealing with diseases that are already here and helping people with surgery or various drugs to deal with their diseases. So the medical profession has largely been based on, and this is internationally, on sick care. You only go to a doctor when you're sick, and then the doctor knows how to treat you because he or she or they have been trained how to treat certain diseases based on their specialties. I come from a family of medical doctors. I decided not to be a medical doctor. I wanted to be a doctor, but a PhD in the area. My PhD is in longevity, the science of longevity. So, and I do have scientific research, so I am a credible scientist in that regard, in my specific vein. But my brothers are medical doctors, and they do not know about nutrition. They exercise a lot. Both of them are athletes. But even when I go to my medical doctors, my primary care physician or my orthopedic surgeon or my gynecologist or my heart doctor or my cancer doctor, all the different doctors, they're specialized in their areas, and they often and usually are not skilled in longevity or health care. And then you have these other companies that I alluded to in the entrepreneurial aspect of the marketplace of longevity. And there's not that many medical, quote unquote, doctors in those areas. Those are mostly investors and people with ideas, and they're great ideas and all that. But this is where we see some problems occurring when we get into new types of therapies, whether they're stem cell therapies or red light therapies or gene therapies or just numerous therapies. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. They may work in some people, but not in everyone. And many of them have not been tested enough to find all the problems that can arise from medical or biomedical interventions that these therapies are doing. So it raises a red flag. So the best we can do is help educate our doctors, our medical professional experts, when we go to them, and without speaking down to them, of course, we want to have a conversation with them, but you have to be very respectful. They can get their feathers ruffled. But I think that it's changing because of AI. Doctors are using AI more in their research and more in their offices to help them gather information. I mean, 5 years ago, I would go to a medical doctor and I would talk to him or her, them about a disease that I had or something I was dealing with. And they did not have the level of information I had gathered from doing my research in the field. And so it's different now. Now I can carry on a conversation with the doctors, but it's like STEM, when we were talking about that, the medical profession by and large is very conservative. It's an historical profession. And oftentimes historical professions that are deeply rooted in the business of being a doctor and what they know and how they're trained, they get offended easily, and it's so we have to work with them, and we have to be the captain of our ship and the master of our fate, and as Osi said, the CEO of our own body. That's why I made one of the new human infrastructure and longevity, the utility of biological maintenance and bodily maintenance. We need to be the CEOs of our own bodies and our life and our minds and our attitudes. And be careful. It's a difficult time because this is all very new still. And even though I have been around for quite some time, many decades, it's spread into the medical community, but it's still new. And I think we have to be patient, of course, and things will speed up more quickly, largely because of the investment, the marketplace, the $1 trillion industry, but also because of artificial intelligence really providing a lot of data, a lot of information that medical doctors can readily use rather than having it take so long to get a paper published, and years and years. It's now in moments almost. I just wanted to make that comment. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And this is very important. Being the CEO of your life, you need to really understand that most of the medical doctors don't really attend conferences, and they don't even most of them don't even understand. But once you try to push it, you don't rub it in. That's what professor is trying to explain. You don't rub it in. You just go there, listen to them, then play your own card very well.
Yes.
Because in fact, sometimes it looks like most of the system that profit from you being sick because they don't even understand. They ask you, are you still in drugs? Are you still taking your drugs? They don't ask you about the basic longevity models that you need to be doing daily to keep yourself well. So yeah. Okay, Jamike, I think that should be the last question. Jamike.
All right, thank you, OC, and thank you, Prof. Natasha. I'm Jamike. I'm from Nigeria, but currently in the United States doing my doctoral studies in applied linguistics. So I got so interested in this movement when OC posted it on Facebook. I'm an avid reader of his articles and all that. I so much love the concept of longevity because my parents lived so long and I want to live better than them. So, but the challenge, I don't know whether it's a question or a comment. We talked about the culture and everything, but the language of longevity, the language of longevity, it starts with awareness. So how do we bridge that gap, that communication gap? Because you might tell someone, oh, have you done your physicals? Just know where to start from, first of all. They become so scared of knowing what the figures are, and they would rather say, oh, God will heal me. I'm not going to. I have a living example. I just called somebody. Have you done your physical for the past 6 months? I know I don't want to go to the hospital thing. They will now tell me something and find something wrong, and I'll get so scared. Oh my goodness. So as a movement, how do we bridge this communication gap and bring awareness to people so that they will be able to take an informed decision?
Excellent. Oh, I just love this. I love this. There are a number of very basic manuals and books and roadmaps that people have written over the years, but they get outdated quickly because it's the whole industry has been moving so quickly over the past 10 years. But I'm so glad that you're getting your doctorate in linguistics. It's a fascinating field. I just completed a chapter about 3 or 4 months ago for a book on longevity, and the title of my chapter is The Evolving Lexicon of Longevity. And I have all the terminology, the terms and the meanings going back, over the decades of how the words have changed in 3 different sectors. I have in the scientific realm, the medical doctors, the gerontologists, et cetera. And in the entrepreneurial space, the terms that those entrepreneurs and business investors are using, and the movement, those of us who are advocates and lifestyle practitioners, all of that we're using, and where the crossovers are. I will send that chapter to you so you can have it. And maybe this might offer some possibility for you to produce something, for you to write a newer guidebook or a roadmap. I think a roadmap would be better. A roadmap for longevity, communicating with your doctor, communicating with others. I think that would be a great innovation, and you could be the entrepreneur bringing it to surface. So if you want to, I'll put my email address in the chat. So please send me your, this is my email address if anyone wants to contact me. Okay, I just put it in the chat. So anyone wants this chapter, I will send it to you, but especially our dear friend, how do you pronounce it? Jamik? Okay, I want to send it to you because you are a linguistic expert. And I think that you'll see, when I say this, I'm saying, after going to conferences for 30 years, 40 years, and listening to people talking about life extension, then to health span and lifestyle, and now health span, these different, how the terms have changed, there's so much confusion, so much. So
thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much, Prof. And yeah, there is a work I'm doing. I'm submitting to one university on the role of language and language and the problematics of language in the healthcare sector. So I'm trying to use some philosophical background to the works of the Vienna Circle, analytic philosophies, and all that to tackle the problems there. And Rudolf Carnap, the German thinker, I think I want to also use his work and some other philosophers of communication. And I'm trying to move swiftly from mass communication to social communication, as communication differs from persons to persons. So if we are talking about precision medicine, we should also talk about precision communication, because communication creates a lot of problems in the healthcare sector, and there are opinionated patients and there are also opinionated clinicians. So these are the things that we need to, the variables that we need to unpack. As I'm doing pretty, somehow I'll send it to you, Prof, after when I'm done. So thank you so much. And I'll be yielding the mic to Brenda. Professor Natasha, if you have any final comments, then you can, but if not, then Brenda will close.
I just sent a little message. Thank you, everyone. I had a great time and love being here with you all, and OC and Brenda, my heroes. And I met so many new people today, and I'm so impressed that you have such a large group of attendees. Bravo to you both.
Oh, thank you so much, Prof. Thank you for always supporting our cause and, having been with us for so long and still continue to contribute so much to the work that we do. And to everybody that has been here tonight, thank you all for showing interest in, life and health extension and wanting to take charge of your own lives. And I look forward to the more sessions that we're going to have over the next few weeks, and your contributions as well, because as we have these sessions, we are learning from each other, we are sharing experiences. There are, ideas that are coming up right now, and you thinking, I'm hearing Dr. Natasha sharing, some of the work that she's doing with some people that would not have heard about that if they're here. So you can see this is bigger than just us wanting to talk longevity. It extends beyond the boundaries of longevity. So I encourage each and every one of you guys to, stay the course and, listen to the various amazing speakers that we're going to have over the next few weeks. And I don't want to forget to remind you, for the guys that are in Nigeria, we've got the Imo State University International Conference coming up. Dr. Natasha Vitamo is one of the speakers there. So we are looking forward to hearing a whole lot of other speakers from within Nigeria as well that are doing amazing work. And there's going to be amazing conversations. We are also organizing for the people that are in South Africa. I had some comments from South Africans there. Exciting for me. Me and Neti are organizing something, possibly in Limpopo, but the venue is still to be confirmed. Something around robotics, gamification, and we are introducing longevity as well. We're going to be talking AI as well, quite big, and we're going to have 2 full days of longevity. So this is the Africa Forum. We are using these 2 events as a build-up to our International Longevity Africa Summit that we have annually. This year, it is happening in Ethiopia at the Shaga Technology Institute. So we look forward to seeing all of you there. Our international collaborators and partners are going to be coming onto that big stage. So if you are able to, please come through. All the information about all these various conferences are going to be on our website. We update as we go along. We look forward to seeing you there. Ethiopia is visa friendly. So it's visa on arrival and is very flexible as far as travel to that country is concerned. As well, remember, it is where the African Union is hosted, so you can get to visit them as a post-tour. So yes, but over and above that, thank you so much for being here with us this evening and sacrificing your time, but also coming here to share your ideas. Dr. Natasha Vitamio, I can't thank you enough. I look forward to more sessions with you and more engagements with you. Osi and the team, thank you so much for organizing this. I'm quite impressed and proud to be part of this team that's doing such amazing work. So thank you so much from my side.
Okay, thank you so much for that, CEO. Thank you so much, Professor Vitamore. And I wish to thank my community manager. She's very amazing. Tulat, kudos to you. Thank you everyone for making out time we still have lots of lineups of speakers, amazing speakers, and this is going to run. Please take your classes serious, watch the teachings again and again, and integrate it into your daily lifestyle. Thank you. Do have a lovely night rest. Good morning, good afternoon, good night, depending on where you join us from.
Good night, everyone. Thank you, Osi. All right, everyone. Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Good night.